Good morning, everybody. A very pretty Friday in February, and I have the most interesting topic today. By the way, if you don't know, I'm the Gab, and we are on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all those good things. Two of my very close friends and favorite people are with me today. Not exactly a restaurant show, but that guy's face that you're looking at right now is somebody who is what I'd say is pretty big in the world of restaurants, a great person, Juan Padro, who owns, I'll let him tell you all the restaurants. I've known him since day one, restaurant one. And my really good pal, Denise Michelson, who I have known from 50 to 80, food editor, and now Colorado Restaurant Association. Background, and then I'm giving over the show. And that is, I was with Denise the other night, and Denise brought up this subject. I, of course, am on the side of every restaurant, always have been. I'm not a critic to criticize, I'm to make good. Anyway, Denise and Juan are both very active in something happening with the legislature that everyone should know about. Good morning, guys.
Morning.
Good morning.
Hey, who's
Thanks for
taking?
having
Actually,
us.
afternoon for me, by the way. But yeah.
Oh, well, thanks a lot. And it's probably 80 degrees.
It is.
Well, we just had.
I noticed your t-shirt.
Yeah.
And you noticed our sweaters.
Yeah.
I see the white snow there.
Oh, yeah. You can look out my window and there's a perfect, and it's better today. Okay. You, Denise, set the scene, Juan, take over. And I might ask a question, but this is your show. Go.
All right. In a high level nutshell, there is a bill up in the Colorado legislature right now that is a restrictive scheduling bill. And what it does is it applies to food service, restaurants, and retail companies in Colorado that either have 250 employees or two locations under the same name. All of those restaurants or retail establishments have to follow a series, 33 pages worth of scheduling practices, record keeping practices over multiple years across hundreds of employees, and pay different forms of pay if restaurant workers' schedules are changed after they're posted. They need to be posted 2 weeks ahead, which a lot of our operators already do. But the problem is once the schedules are posted, even if workers request changes, operators are penalized financially after everything they've been through in the last 3 years. And Juan can speak to that far better than I. There's a presumption of guilt in this bill that if one piece of paperwork goes missing over 3 years, the operator willfully, tried to flaunt the bill and could be up for lawsuits and thousands of dollars in fines. It's burdensome, it will crush the restaurant industry, and it will actually take flexibility away from the workers, which is the very reason they're in the industry in the first place. So we're fighting it with everything we have.
Okay, Juan, as you take
what's your
over,
perspective?
please just tell the names of the restaurants that you do own so somebody knows.
Sure. It's the Culinary Creative Group, and we've got 15 restaurants. We have the Tappin Burgers, the Aviano Coffees, Forget Me Not, A5, the two Mr. Osos, or Osito, which is our fast casual, Oso, Senor Bear, Ashkara, Bardo, and we have 11 under construction in Denver, and about to break ground on 4 more in New Orleans as well, where we have Sophia. So we're a restaurant group that certainly loves Colorado, has created a lot of jobs in Colorado. We currently have 500 employees. We'll be 1,000 this time by the end of the year, or by this time next year, maybe even more. We have 4 airport locations, which are licensing deals, which fall under this legislation as well, which doesn't make a ton of sense. That's kind of our group, in a nutshell. What Denise is talking about, is certainly problematic in many ways. I do want to be clear, that I think, ultimately, intent, I think, is really important to consider whenever you're, in a situation like this. And, I know some of these legislators, and I don't know them to be bad people. In fact, Serena's family are friends of mine, and, so we just have a disagreement on this stuff. And I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding of what an independent restaurant is. You can't put a number on it. You can't say 250 people or over is a chain. That doesn't
Or
really
two
make
locations, two
Yeah.
tap and burgers, you're under this bill.
right.
That's
So
not a,
no, and if you wanted to, the common ownership thing, look, it's the problem for me is there's the way the bill's written is unfortunate. I think that there is some language in there that is pretty loose, and it clearly puts operators at risk for legal action for things that really are just basic mistakes and things like that could potentially happen, and that will happen. I mean,
just talk about the employees one. Don't even bring up the operators, which is important, but what about your employees? The amendments that were proposed say that your employees have to request their schedule changes 14 days ahead.
Yeah,
I mean,
the thing is that, Denise, when we sat through that hearing yesterday, the thing that was astonishing to me was that there were no people in our industry that testified against it. None. They were baristas. I can't even tell you how many people from Starbucks testified.
Starbucks and meat processing plant
Meat
workers.
processing plants. They even had tried to appeal to the heartstrings and brought folks in that were outside of the industry that could potentially
And
be
I felt terrible for those people, but they should work for you. They shouldn't.
Well, I almost scrapped everything I was going to say and said, hey, you guys, we're hiring. Problem solved. So,
or let us help you find good work. And there are employment laws there. Everyone up there had a claim that they could have filed. And a lot of them work for union shops, and unions are carved out of this bill. So I was mystified as to why. I was just mystified, because if you work for a union shop, that none of the horrible things they described should be happening in the first place.
Right. And I think that, the bill is at odds with what the goals of the state are as well. So, I think Democrats, of which I am one of, need to get their act together here in Colorado. Because the governor's pushing, ESOPs, which are employee stock option plans, to help make equitable business, incentivize equitable business.
Some people have even done that.
Some people have done that. There are different ways of doing that, but if that's the way we're going to go, if our focus is on breaking economic cycles, which ultimately was everybody's concern, is how do I have a consistent paycheck so I can pay my bills? The answer isn't $17 an hour. The answer isn't, making sure that, you have a consistent schedule in a restaurant. The answer is creating jobs that pay well, and incentivizing economic growth, and within that growth, also incentivizing equitable business, and through tax credits, not adding costs to businesses, saying, hey, you're part of the solution, you're not part of the problem. And this old way of doing things, I mean, it's funny because, they're talking about, the legislators, the sponsors of this bill are talking about, a new way of doing things. That wasn't a new way of doing things. That is the oldest way of doing things you could possibly use. My parents I come from a union family. I've seen this shit a million times. My father ran the farm workers union. He was the president of the farm workers union. My mother was an exec in the teachers union in Massachusetts, So, I've seen this stuff over and over and over again. This was garbage. And, the reality of this stuff is that this is 2023. I think that our industry in particular, independent restaurants in Colorado, I don't want to speak for other industries, but our industry is number one priority, is, creating environments that are welcoming, and safe for our employees.
And accommodating.
And
If
accommodating. And
you
by the way,
wouldn't accommodate your workers, they'd be gone. They
That's
would be
right.
gone.
So, to loop our industry in with all these other industries under this bill, really doesn't make a lot of sense. To not include our industry in these conversations, is
Yeah, can I speak to that for 1 second?
irresponsible. In the kindest word I can use is irresponsible. It's completely irresponsible.
They are claiming that they have had a stakeholder process for 2 years, and we were notified of this bill on January 3rd this year. And they introduced it on the 17th. And so to say, I mean, we lost our invitation. Did the memo get lost for 2 years? We were not invited to participate in these conversations with the sponsors for the last 2 years. And that's just not right.
I have a question, if I could.
Yeah.
I'm listening. Are you telling me, because this is what a couple of other restaurateurs, when they said something also meant, that the burden is going totally on the owners? This has nothing to do. I mean, the employee who says, I'm not showing up, it's still the owner's fault.
Well, now the owner
Is that true?
has to pay predictability pay. They have to find a new person to work. They have to pay that person predictability pay for adding to their posted schedule, and they have to pay predictability to pay to the person who called in as well. And if the person called in, they also get their sick pay because that's already an established law, as it should be.
Okay, and
So
if there's no
multiple
business
levels of additional cost for the owners, plus then they have to keep written records of every single shift change for every employee for 3 years.
That's wonderful. So if your employee came, I mean, I'm sure Juan can speak, there's a blizzard. So you certainly don't need all the help that you brought in. You can't send someone home. You still have to pay them.
You have to pay them. You can send them home, but
Well,
you would
but
have
you're
to pay
still
them.
And the idea that, one of the things that was just like wildly like inappropriate and just shows the lack of understanding of our industry is them saying it's only an hour of pay. It's only
Exactly.
2 hours of pay. It's very minimal.
It's modest.
It adds up.
It's modest. It's only, a preventative measure. I think that that's very big. I mean, it's like, what planet are you living on that you think for a restaurant group like mine, I'm 500 people, that is moderate, right? If you did the math.
How many times a day, Juan, do you have somebody needing to switch a shift? Because you have to pay both sides, the person who drops the shift, the person who takes the shift. Every day,
multiple times a day.
500 people.
Yeah. So if we're saying we have 500 people, right? And we work on a service charge model. So for us, it's not $17 an hour. For us, it's going to average like $35 an hour, right? So, so if I've got, 500 employees who 2 times, 2
times in a year, even
exercise this, that's $35,000 a year out of my pocket. And it's like
going to happen 500 times a year.
It's going to happen 500. Right. So I'm just saying, like, that's the problem. There's not an employee. I don't know what the average is. I would assume that the average employee changes their shift 15 to 20 times a year.
Well, and we did a survey this week, and almost 200 Colorado operators responded, and they said they were all guessing. I mean, no one knows what the impact of this will be, but everybody was trying to estimate what will this cost you in compliance, record keeping, retention pay, predictability pay, all these things. The average of all of their responses was $70,000 per restaurant per year. Yeah, but some people were saying 500,000, and some people were saying, 10,000. And then there was a study that was released yesterday that said it would be between 500,000 and $1 million.
Yeah, look, let me give you an example that's not this bill. We did the COVID sick pay thing, which was, for all intents and purposes, the intention was good. If you have COVID, you should stay home. We'll pay you. Okay. Let me tell you something. I paid $247,000 last year in COVID sick pay, 22% of my profit. I did 10,000 more in sales last year than I did the year before and made less money.
Well, now that's
$10
where
million more. I'm sorry.
that's where I'm about to come in, because not only are you dealing with this, in general, I've heard exactly what you're saying, that
Right.
the cost of doing business, forgetting what they're adding to it, is a restaurant cannot break even when they used to. It's a lot harder. And
Well,
people say it's too expensive, but they don't realize if they go to the grocery store, they know what you're saying.
Yeah, one thing I think that we did not do a good job of talking about as an organization last night was that the average independent restaurant profits between 3 and 6% a year.
Right.
Okay.
And I don't think
That was not brought up. That was not brought up once. I jumped off the call.
No, that's not true. No, it was definitely brought up. The problem was they didn't vote in the end. So all of that testimony, several people said, in a good year, we make 3 to 5%. And right now we're not making anywhere near that because of the cost of utilities, food, fuel, labor, etc. And to add this extra financial burden, which might sound modest and is not, would crush our businesses. A
Yeah,
few people got to say
yeah,
it
it's
was
really a bad deal, you know? And I think they're going to go back and probably come back with some sort of modified version. Look, the reality is they need to pull independent restaurants out of this bill.
And the truth is too, any other location in the country that has this, Oregon is the only other state that has this as a statewide mandate. And their law applies to 40 or more locations under the same trade name. So you need 40 Tap and Burgers, and you have to have 500 or more employees. So why is our bill twice as restrictive as that?
Yeah, that's
It's
the
not.
thing that, you know, this, and there was some real liberties that were taken by the sponsors of this bill saying, you know, we're just following suit what's happening in all these cities. No, you're not. Not even close. And by the way, those bills in those other cities are hurting those cities, and they're half as restrictive.
There was one Oregon restaurant owner who came on and he said, I'm just here to provide context. He said, if you want a restaurant in Seattle, let me know. I'll give you one for free because restaurants are closing left and right. I was just in Seattle last weekend. There were empty storefronts all over the place.
Everywhere.
Nobody can hire. I mean, again, back to the employees.
Same in Portland. Yeah.
Yes, employees want flexibility. Otherwise, they would not come to this industry. And if it breaks my heart. I do not think you should work at Starbucks. I'm going to just say it. Everyone there who worked at Starbucks sounded like they were being treated terribly. And that breaks my heart. But there are restaurants all over this state that would be happy to hire them and treat them far better because this is an employee-led business and industry. I've never seen a more employee-driven industry than in Colorado, more than New York, more than Connecticut, every other place I've lived.
Okay, now my question is, what does anybody who happens to be watching this, that we will encourage everybody to please watch this. It's a fabulous discussion about something that's horrible for all of us in any form of the restaurant business, whether even a diner, forget anybody else. No
consumers,
money.
This will impact you. This will fully impact dining out.
What do we, Gabby kind of people, do?
I will send you the full list of emails for the House Business Committee representatives. We need to email them and explain to them why this is disastrous for Colorado, for business growth, because why would you open a second or third location if this bill was in place? For workers, we had restaurant operators last night saying they're going to close or they are certainly not going to expand into Colorado. But I can give you all the emails and you can post it on your channels. And we need to continue to send very respectful emails and phone calls to all of these representatives, explaining, again, just reiterating exactly how harmful this will be.
Okay.
We are hoping within the next week or so that there will be some sort of vote, but we need to keep that pressure up.
Okay. Somebody who's watching now, is there a place they can directly write to you to get that? You'll send it to me, but the other guys, is there a way that they should hear is saying, they should hear what you're saying?
Right. I mean, there's not a one-click place. We actually, on our website, the Colorado Restaurant Association website, on the homepage, there is a slider that says help us fight restrictive scheduling. And that website is corestaurant.org. But what's more effective is to send emails to these representatives. And like I said, I am happy to provide those emails. They're public record. These are our elected officials. And they want to hear from their constituents. They have told us that they want this
Well,
feedback.
make a big difference in our vote
Yeah.
for them. I mean, come on. You really
Yep. No, they want to hear from us.
good.
Yep.
And just as we're saying this, the Colorado Restaurant Association is doing a fabulous job. Juan, as far
Couldn't
as
do
your
it without people like
restaurants
Juan.
go, you are doing a fabulous job.
Thank you.
Love them all. I was at Ashkara the other night. Our server was incredible. The place was pre-Valentine, not me, fun and mob. Everybody was thrilled. Every one of your places since day one, First Tap and Burger, are
Thank you.
just fabulous. You're doing a great job.
I appreciate it.
Everybody.
And thank you for your help, Juan. This is so important.
Yeah, you know, like I said, you know, my union family read this and was like, this is not so good, you know, and so
Punishing
it's a
good
crazy.
actors along with the bad. It's just too far reaching. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
is there
But we
something-
appreciate you bringing this to light, Gabby.
Well,
Thank
it's
you.
my pleasure. I hope everybody will like and subscribe to the Gab. And I want them to see this. It's really important. But is there a final word that anybody wants to give to finish this off? Because I have nothing more to say than please do something. We have to keep our restaurants. We're known for the best community, the best workers. They all help each other. I mean, I have never been, I am the luckiest person in the world because I can always look good because nobody's ever going to let us down. And you guys are awesome, each and every restaurant and each and every person, talking to two of you. And I think we should fight this in some way.
In every way.
In every way. Yep. Agreed.
Okay, well,
We're not done. We're
Oh.
we're momentarily postponed, but we are not done fighting. We're still in it.
there is a chance.
Oh, yes, there's still a chance.
Good. Okay, well, to everybody watching, I hope you are, I hate to say the word inspired, but ready to fight or write or do something. And have a great weekend. It's
Thank you.
President's Weekend. I hope everybody enjoys. Love you both. Tell your mama hi too, would you please? Juan.
I will, for sure. I just put her on a plane back to Philadelphia. I took her to Puerto Rico for the week. So
Oh, she's such a
Yeah.
sweetie. All right, well,
Yeah.
stay well, travel well. Love you all.
thank you so much.
All of you
Thank
Bye.
listening.
Thanks. Nice to see you, Denise.
Thank
You
you.
too.
Love you.
Bye, Gab. Appreciate you. Bye.